Everyone knows George Washington was America's first president, but do you know how he got there? The story involves war, betrayal, reluctance, and a man who never actually wanted the job. This is the untold story of how America chose its first leader. George Washington wasn't born to be president. He was born to be a British subject. Born in 1732 in Virginia, Washington was a wealthy plantation owner who inherited slaves and land. His early career? Military failures. In 1754, he accidentally started a war between Britain and France by attacking a French diplomatic mission. His incompetence got his men killed. But failure taught him lessons. By the 1770s, when tensions with Britain exploded, Washington had become a respected, though not brilliant, military leader. When the Continental Congress needed a general to lead the Revolutionary War in 1775, they chose Washington, not because he was the best, but because he was from Virginia, the largest colony, and they needed Southern support. Washington took command of a ragtag army against the world's most powerful military. His strategy? Survive. He lost more battles than he won. New York, Brandywine, Germantown, all defeats. But Washington understood something crucial. He just had to not lose completely. As long as his army existed, the revolution lived. His greatest moment came on Christmas night, 1776. After months of defeats, Washington crossed the icy Delaware River and launched a surprise attack on Hessian mercenaries at Trenton. It was a small victory, but it saved the revolution from collapse. Americans rallied. France joined the war. 6 years later, with French help, Washington trapped British forces at Yorktown in 1781 and forced their surrender. Britain gave up. America was free. And George Washington became the most famous man in the new nation. But here's where the story gets interesting. Washington did something no military commander in history had done before. In 1783, Washington's officers urged him to make himself king. They had the army, the popularity, the power. Many Americans expected it. Republics always failed, they thought. But Washington shocked the world. He resigned his military commission and went home to Mount Vernon. No coup, no crown, just retirement. King George III of Britain, when told Washington would give up power voluntarily, said, "If he does that, he will be the greatest man in the world." And Washington did exactly that. He chose to be like Cincinnatus, the Roman general who saved Rome, then returned to his farm. This single act made Washington a legend. But America's problems weren't solved. Under the Articles of Confederation, the new nation was falling apart. No strong central government, states fighting each other, economy collapsing, foreign nations disrespecting the weak Union. By 1787, American leaders called for a constitutional convention in Philadelphia to fix the mess. Washington was chosen to preside over the convention. His presence gave it legitimacy. For months, delegates debated creating a new government with a strong executive, essentially a president. But many feared this president would become a king. The solution? Everyone knew Washington would be the first president, and they trusted him not to become a tyrant. The office was literally designed around one man. The Constitution created the presidency and the Electoral College to choose the president. In 1789, when electors cast their votes, it was unanimous. Every single elector voted for George Washington. 69 electoral votes, all for one man. It's the only unanimous presidential election in American history. But here's the secret. Washington didn't want the job. He was 57 years old, tired, and wanted to retire. He wrote letters expressing his reluctance, his fear of failure, his desire for privacy. But he understood something important. If he didn't take the job, someone less trusted might seize power and destroy the republic. America needed him one last time. In April 1789, Washington traveled from Mount Vernon to New York City, the temporary capital. Along the way, massive crowds gathered, celebrations, parades, crying children trying to touch him. Americans viewed him as a living legend. On April 30th, 1789, on the balcony of Federal Hall in New York, Washington took the oath of office and became America's first president. He added 4 words not in the Constitution: "So help me God." Every president since has repeated them. Washington set precedents that defined the presidency: a cabinet of advisors, a 2-term limit, peaceful transfer of power, and, most importantly, the president serves the people, not the other way around. George Washington became president not because he sought power, but because he repeatedly gave it up. He could have been king and chose not to be. He could have stayed president for life and served only 8 years before retiring again. Washington proved that in America, even the most powerful person is still a citizen. The man who didn't want to be president became the template for every president after. Not perfect. He owned slaves, made mistakes, struggled with the job, but he understood that leadership means service, not dominance. That's how George Washington became America's first president, by showing the world that true power lies in knowing when to let it go.